Hey, God bless you, Woman Developed. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I pray that you are able to watch it from beginning to end. I believe that it will definitely bless you. Do you find yourself making excuses or having reasons for where you are in your life, or better yet, why you have what you have or don't have? Today, I want to talk about 3 R's, and that is resource, responsibility, and return. We're probably going to spend a lot of time on responsibility, but not too much time, but just to give you some nuggets that you definitely can take with you, not just within this day, but I believe for the journey of your life. So the resource is a supply that we draw upon. So we draw upon the resource, the ability or the talents which God has given us. He has left us with resources, and he has placed within us many things that we ought to draw from the supply of. So when God gives us something, trust me, it is intact, but we begin to develop it when we move forward within it. We begin to see a return off of it. So the reason why we're going to spend some time in responsibility, which is that middle ground, because in order for us to get from the resource which is given and for the return, the yielding of a profit or the investment, where we begin to utilize our time, our talents, and our abilities for the bringing forth of something, that we actually have something in mind to achieve. So if we want to achieve something, then we have to see how are we being responsible over what is given. So again, that resource is a supply that we draw from. Right? It is the talent, the skill, or the ability that we have been given. And we recognize that we have not all been given the same ability, the same talent, or the same skill, that God have rationed out to each and every one of us a different amount. I think about the story or the parable of the talents, right? Where you had 3 servants. There was one servant who was given 5 talents. Another servant was given 2 talents, and the last servant was given 1 talent. Now, the one with the 5, he went out and he doubled it. He gained 10 talents. The one with the 2, he went out, he doubled it. He gained 4 talents, if you will. And then the last one, who had the 1 talent, he didn't give a return at all because he hid it in the earth. So let's talk about the responsibility. The responsibility is being accountable for what you have been given. So when you become accountable for what you have been given, it's as if there is a particular burden of obligation that is placed upon you. You have a particular burden of obligation to say, I have to bring forth something off of what have been given to me. I cannot just live life sitting with this on the inside of me or with this in my hands. I have to sow it. Right? So whenever we sow something, don't we look for a return? Don't we look to reap? Let us be honest. We may not necessarily look for it to come back the same exact way, but we say, hey, if I sow finances, I may be looking for healing in my body. If I sow love, I'm looking for compassion to return back to me. We sow with the intent of receiving something back. So when God sows into our lives, he is looking for a return. He's looking for an investment when he returns back. So the one with the 5 and the one with the 2, they took the responsibility, the authority, actually, because authority is a definition of responsibility. So they took the delegated authority that they were given to say, hey, I'm going to multiply this. I'm going to double this. I'm going to increase this. I'm going to yield a profit off of this. I'm not just going to hold it in my hands and not take risk. See, I'm going to put in the work to recognize what's within me. If I have to dig a little bit deeper to say, what is this resource? How do I use this resource? How can I be responsible over it to gain something from it? So they did that. But again, now with this one, the one did not take the responsibility. He made excuses for why he did not do anything with what was given to him when the master returned. The master looked at the one with the 5 and the 2 and saw that they doubled it. And he said, hey, you did a good job. You did a great work. Now come and partner with me. Come and work with me because you know what to do with what you have. We talked about in another video, right? Not allowing people to put upon you what they feel fits for you, to say no thank you, right? to recognize where you're at and where you need to go. How can you utilize the resource that God has placed within you? Because at the end of the day, we do not all carry the same thing. We will not all do the same thing at the same time. We will not all speak the same thing. We will not all do those things through the purpose and talent and abilities that God has given us. But once we recognize that there is a resource that has been given to us, we have an obligation to bring a return off of it. So let's talk about this one for a moment. Many of us find ourselves in the position of the one because of fear. We hide a lot of things in fear. I hid a lot of things in fear. I hid my confidence in fear. I hid my boldness in fear. I hid my speaking ability in fear. I hid my trust in fear. I hid so many things in fear. This one servant said, Master, when he came back, he said, listen, I hid what you gave me in a good place. It is protected. It is in a good place. And fear will tell you that it's a good place. It's a good hiding place. Fear, I like to say, have a master in so many areas. Fear has a master in trust. Hide your trust here. Fear has a master in speaking ability. Hide your fear here. You don't have to do certain things. So I'm a great hiding place. What have you hidden in fear? What excuses, if not reasons? See, the one who had the 5 and the one who had the 2 had reasons to bring a return. But the one had an excuse as to why he did not bring a return. So is fear crippling you? Is fear keeping you? What is holding you from bringing a return? This slothful servant said, Master, I knew that you had high standards, and I knew that you were one who did not like error. So therefore, I didn't want to bring you anything that was not excellent. So I decided to hide it. I played it safe. So you know what happened because he played it safe? The very resource that was given to him, the very talent that was given to him was taken away and given to the one who put in the most work. Was given into the one who took the most risk. Life is all about risk. Sometimes we don't know what's on the other end. For those of us who invest, you invest your money and you say, okay, put it over here. And you see the stock market going down. You want to call your investor to say, move it. But it's just about the risk. It can be just for that moment and just for that time, but you have to trust. I want to throw a 4th R in there, which is about relationship. I think the 5 and the 2 had a relationship with the master to realize that if the master gave something, that the master wanted them to draw off of the supply of what was given to them, that resource. And because they realized that the master had given them a resource that they can draw from, they were able to use the authority in the responsibility to be accountable and to be reliable for when the master came back for his return, for his profit. But the one who had the one talent didn't really have that relationship because he looked at the master as being one way that the master wasn't. Because had the master been that way, he would have said to the first 2, well, why did you go out and do anything with what I gave you? You should have just hid it. You should have hid it in fear. You should have hid it in the earth. You should have hid it and not took the risk. But because that one servant felt that I need to play it safe, I'm just going to go ahead and give the master back what he gave me. The master said the least you could have done was giving it to the bankers that they could have drew interest. You could at least partner yourself with someone to show you how to use what was given. Now, let's just say for a moment, I have a singing ability, right? A singing talent. So now I can say, hey, I'm just going to sing in the shower, sing in the car, sing while I am cleaning my home. But what return is being brought off of that? Now, the way that I bring a return or I gain or draw from the supply of is if I write music, right? If I produce, if I teach, if I sing alongside of, if I do something with what has been given to me, I am now putting forth. I am now making a difference. I'm now yielding a profit. So where do you find yourself? Do you find yourself with excuses or with reasons? Sometimes we have to, and I'm going to be very candid. Sometimes we have to tell fear, shut up, sit down, and you're going to go for the ride. We have to sometimes do things in fear. We have to say, hey, I'm not making any more excuses. I'm not living beneath my means. I'm not living playing it safe. I'm not living in a place of not taking risks because I have been given a responsibility. There is a particular burden of obligation. There is an obligation that I have to bring forth a return. So where do you find yourself? Do you find yourself being responsible to double what you have? Or do you take that responsibility and say, hey, I'm just going to hide it. I'm not going to use the authority that God has given me. We are at a place that we have to utilize what God has given us so that we can maximize a great return to see the fullness of what God desires for us in our lives. Fear, hey, he's going to be present. He can have all his masters, all that he has. But I say, I don't need you, fear, to tell me anything. Because God has given me an authority and a responsibility. He has given me a mandate. He has given me an accountability. And he has called me to be reliable over what he has given me. So we have to get to that place to recognize that we have a resource. We have to draw from the supply thereof. We have to utilize the skill and the ability, that God has given us. Being responsible therein, being accountable. Can we be held accountable? Can we be held accountable for what we have been given so that we can yield a return? How are we in the relationship with the one who has given the resource? That's the question right there. Because if we are in great relationship with the one who have given the resource, we will find ourselves given a return. I want to leave you with this. The one with the one talent, he didn't necessarily look at the one who had the 5 or the 2. He wasn't influenced by what they did, because had he been influenced, he would say, oh, well, let me go ahead and double and do what they are doing. No, because of the relationship that he did not have with the master, he didn't even look at the influence that was provided. He just said, I know what I need to do, and that's to hide it. I know the master. I know what he wants. And you might be in that place to say, I know what I need to do. And that's all right. I know that I have it, but I'm not going to do anything with it. You don't want to be in a position where you don't want to be in a position that what you have will one day be taken away and given to the one who have put in the most work. God gives us all a responsibility, whether you have 1, whether you have 2, whether you have 5, or whether you have a multiple number. It doesn't matter. We are all held responsible for what we have been given. So it's time to live in the now. It's time to live by taking risk. It's time to live in the responsibility. We are truly in the interim of getting things done. And so are you in that place to get it done, or are you going to stay with the excuses? But come to the other side and let us start having reasons for why we are doing what we're doing. So I pray that this video has blessed you in some way. I thank you again for taking the opportunity to watch. Share it if it has blessed you. I will see you again. Have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend. Love you much. God bless.